Welcome to Today EVE Online. Sorry. Welcome to Today in EVE Online. It is September 10th. It's Patch Day. So I guess we'll have a look to see how that is going. I'm loading it up now. Welcome. Let's see what's going on around EVE Online and especially what we can hear about these new changes that have hit the game. There are significant changes for certain people, highly significant changes for certain people, certain groups, certain play styles. See if I can drag someone in here. All right. So you can see we have the, kind of figure out, so you can see up on screen we have the usual, which is e-forums that we look at. We check out the latest, and I also check out other avenues of information. So hanging out with me today is Bard Ghost. How's it going, Bard Ghost?
Good, you?
Good. It's Patch Day.
Yes. It's been an interesting day already.
Yeah?
So the obvious one is Sino changes, and there is already a dead Titan and Super.
Yeah, I saw that. That was in Fountain. It looks like it belongs to the Initiative.
Yes.
Do we know what happened there?
I don't quite have the full story. Apparently he got caught. There's a Falcon kill mail that went with it.
Oh.
Where he warped that in to try and save himself, and it died in about 2 seconds.
His Falcon?
Yes.
Or was somebody scrambling a Sino to get him help?
I believe it was his, because the unconfirmed thing that somebody said in the Reddit thread, so take it with a grain of salt, is that he did it without anyone being ready to jump to it. Okay. So it was just that mad dash to try and save it. But I don't know.
All right. So what's clear, though, is this Project Valhalla Titan, Project Valhalla Corporation Titan, died. It's the first casualty that we've seen for the new Sino changes.
There was a test super that died 5-10 minutes before that.
The Hell?
It certainly wasn't a Titan. Yes, the Hell. It certainly wasn't a Titan.
No, but yeah, it's still significant. So, well, actually, a lot of stuff has died. It depends on when September 10th is marked. But I see a ton of dreads and faxes. That might be from yesterday. I don't know.
Anything? Let's see.
No, I think what's happened is the dates are messed up because I'm on the West Coast. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's going by my date, which is different than, I think.
No, that does look right. Those times do look right. So that Rorqual and anything after is Sino changes.
Well, the big news is right away you have a Titan getting caught. It sounds like they were prepared, but it just didn't execute well if they had an eagle that died with it.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those sort of early opening moments of it. You know, people are going to mess up.
So it's a combination of, these are all advanced players, you can tell by their corporations, but Horde Vanguard, and you have what looks like some a little Seknia Shalupan is basically a Russian group that specializes in taking out big ships. They hang out in choke points and lurk. So they're your creatures in the cave that you have to get through.
Yeah, I'd say they were waiting for something, right?
Yeah, everybody's on alert. The prowlers or the hunters and the people who are trying to move inside this more complicated space. Actually, there's a lot of people got on that kill mill. I wonder how long it took to go down. Yeah, so here's the eagle. And it belonged to... Sorry, the falcon. Did it have a Sino? It did. It had a covert too. So this guy was ready, or somebody tried to save him, if it wasn't himself. But that thing got wiped out. I wonder how fast it went down. A sign of things to come.
The guy on Reddit, who was apparently somehow involved, said that it was popped up on grid, out of warp, locked, dead. That was it.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a sign of things to come, right? As you say.
Yeah, and it was tanked up pretty good. No, it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know how you tank these things, but it definitely had a bunch of shield. Maybe it didn't activate. I don't know. Shields are different than armor because armor has a lot of. I think it has more passive tank, which means you don't have to do anything. It just exists. So you put the armor on and you have armor on, so you die slower. With shields, it seems like there's more options for activating shields so that you don't drain your capacitor. And most of the time you need to turn those on. And that might be a second or two of critical timing if you're coming out of a warp or something like that. Just thinking about how fast it dropped. All right. How are you doing, Bard Ghost? What's going on? Have you noticed other things?
Pardon, sorry? I missed the end.
Have you noticed other things on this patch day?
We know the Triglavian stuff's gone live. We just haven't seen them about. It may take a while for them to turn up.
They're in low sec now.
Yeah. Odd one, but...
Well, we don't know
choice,
to what extent.
I will say.
What's that?
Yeah. A good choice. Like, as I said to you before and to some others, I had concerns with it being high sec, but low sec is a fair choice that's going to make it interesting, at least. But as you say, also, we don't know to what extent.
Yeah. We don't know to what extent they're in there. It's just one comment, so it could be anything.
It could be 5, it could be 500, and they just wipe the system out.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, let's go through our daily mail here inside of the E forums and see if there's anything interesting. Can probably explain some of the stuff that's on screen. Easy choice is probably somebody walking away. Let's see. What does survey say? Today I slipped my count into alpha. Yep. It's another guy complaining that he's going. And of course, all this is to exert pressure on CCP to make them change their minds, I think, which is unlikely. EVE Online is, if anything, CCP is known for not changing their mind, sticking with something, and actually benefiting from it. I always go back to 2005, where people got mad at CCP and said, you have to intervene. This is terrible. This corporation was infiltrated and taken down by these spies. And CCP said, nope, we're not. And that lit up the imagination of other people that wanted to do that kind of gameplay. And so you had an increase in population, not a decrease. And you also have people that were caught botting and thrown out of the game. And there was an uproar about, I think some people got swept up in it that were, not botters or technically not botters, and those people complain and leave the game. And what happens is when CCP is strict like that, when they really take people out and when they make bans and they stick to it and they don't back down, you see people say like, I like that universe, and they start coming to it. And then another thing, the CO2 demise of their leader, Gygax, who got in trouble. That was a really strange situation where he got into trouble that was, well, he'd had a reputation before for being pretty brutal verbally. And then it was done inside the game and caught on stream. So there was thousands of witnesses. And at that point, CCP had to say, nope, you're gone. We don't want any of this kind of thing in the game if you're going to be threatening people. And he was gone. And the repercussions of that were huge because a lot of players followed that leader. They stuck to it. And I think that gives stability to the universe. If they had reversed it, it would have made a few people happy, but it would have made a lot of other people very unhappy. So the point is, when CCP is firm on things that they're doing, there seems to be consistency in the universe. When they go back and forth and flip-flop, it looks like errors are being made and confidence gets eroded. So if you're leaving the game, that's too bad. That sucks for us because we probably want you around. But there's a lot of problems in the game that need to be fixed. I think Chaos is attempting to experiment with how to fix those by making the game harder for veteran players. Some veteran players don't want the game to be harder because they have worked out their situation, and their situation works for them, and they worked a long time and spent money getting there. To have it go away is defeating. If they see no way forward, then they'll probably move on. But again, CCP going back to the way it was will knock out other players. It's a really interesting balance. So I shouldn't drink coffee for some reason. I can't clear my throat. Okay, let's see what else is going on. Risk versus reward, ninja mining. So somebody's asking probably, is it worth doing? And ninja mining is where you come in and you mine in smaller and faster ships, or you just basically try to mine in areas you're not supposed to and get away with it, whether it be somebody's minefield that they created off the moon fracking or in somebody's wormhole. Well, wherever you're in danger, really. Okay, so we're looking at custom off. Why are custom offices so tough? Offices so tough? I do not know what that would be about. Let's see what he's talking about. Oh, they're hard to destroy. No answer for that. Something they're written in Russian. I love these questions. Hauling, can you make money as a blockade runner? I love that question. Such an imaginative gameplay there. Okay, another welcome. I can't fix a title. Sorry. That's one of the perils of this. I can't fix a title once it starts. Maybe I can try. Let's see if it, if you refresh, it might happen. And I'd rather have an intact audio track so I don't have to cut or splice two together. Yeah, I changed the title, but I don't. Go ahead and try an update and see what happens. Oh, okay, good. So people did update it. Good. I thought you couldn't unless you stopped the stream, but that's great to know. I think, yeah, maybe that's new. I don't know. In any case, thank you for telling me I did that. Okay, so the Gygax was very emotional. Also was set up by the judge. Yeah, I don't know. That was just such a lucky strike. The Gygax thing happened live while we were broadcasting, and we brought on Gygax and the judge in the same room right after it happened, like minutes. Probably actually within an hour or two of when it happened. And they were cordial, but boy, the people who were close to Gygax, the followers, were furious. And it just kept getting worse until actually live on air, we have Gygax saying, "Oh, I think I just got banned." And that was his banning. It was permanent. It was really unfixable. And that's too bad because he was a player who played this game a long time. He was a high-profile player. It was a big name to drop. He's also a volatile player in that he would attack often and just really not care about all the reputational things that people get stuck on. So he was definitely a warrior in that sense. But he got caught in public making threats at a time when CCP had just signed up with other game companies to say online threats and violence are not tolerable, and they're going to do something to curb it. And that happened weeks before. So it was fresh on the minds of everybody. So it was a really tough time to get caught doing something that was threatening. So that was too bad. That was bad timing. I don't think it was set up to be as perfectly executed as it was. I think actually there was some mistakes made while the transfers were happening. They ran out of time or something. I don't think it was botched at all. Clearly, Judge was able to steal a lot of ships, steal a lot of ISK from his fellow alliance mates. And in the process, whether he taunted or not, I don't remember him taunting Gygax, but he certainly opened up the channel, and then they broadcast the channel to live, and that just made it a terrible situation to be mad at and not know you're being broadcast. So all those emotions from a leader who had everything taken away from him by one of his close captains, he said some stuff that went out and was broadcast at that point. There's just not much that can be done for you. Do not threaten people in real life. Just don't threaten people. I'm not saying that for me or because I want you to be a good boy. I'm just saying that once that gets out, you're done for. Okay, so let's go through these. Looking for. All right, people have kicking around ideas. And all right, and so we're talking about Gygax. It's funny. One of my friends goes by Cheetah here, but he's actually Erox. And one time when a Gygax video came out, this is really funny. I love Erox. He's an amazingly funny guy. If you get a chance to talk to him, and he's like, "Who was that voice on that video? That voice was all right." He's like, "That guy's gonna make it all right," and that was hilarious. In other words, that FC had a good voice. He had a voice that was calm and authoritative, and was something that you could have confidence in, that sort of thing. I thought that was funny. All right, I'm going to steal some more people. Here's Lux and Z-Master. Lux?
Oh, hey, Matt.
Hey. Patch Note Day.
Good stuff, isn't it? It's like quite well-rounded, to be honest.
What's that?
Quite a well-rounded patch. It's got a bit of everything in there. It's more like a mini update.
Yeah, I don't know. It's it seems like it had a few but meaningful things to it. Let's see. So you can go to updates.eveonline.com. I'm thinking, yeah, updates.eveonline.com will give you patch notes. Well, actually, it gives you stuff that's updated in the game. So we're looking at Wormhole visual updates. That is pretty cool because they upgraded the lower end visuals. So if you have to turn your graphics down, you can still get some information that was, until now, something you could only get if you had graphics pumped up. So it's a little fairer, which is good. Also, they, I think, made some adjustments to the information that the wormhole gives you, the wormhole graphic. So that was explained by Exuki on, I think, was it Friday or Sunday? But there was an explanation about what that actually meant for wormholers.
Yeah, it just means you can visually see what ships will fit through it and how unstable it is, or just by looking at it. You don't have to open up an info window to see it, which is nice.
It reminds me of Revelations expansion, where the graphics improved so much that you could tell if somebody had an armor ship or not. It was just the visual information was much clearer, so people could act if they were actually looking at ships. I don't think people still do that. They still go off their knowledge of what the likely scenario is. In other words, if you see a fleet of omens or something, that you would assume, okay, I know if they're in armor or if they're in shield. Probably armor, since they're Amar. But sometimes, like, Galente ships will be shield fit instead of armor fit, which is unusual. It's against their racial type. And being able to visually see that in a clearer way was an improvement at the time. And that was about 2006 or 7, 2007 probably.
To me, it just opens up some options for CCP. So rather than having some of the things around wormhole mechanics being completely static, you could have them be more dynamic because you can actually see what's going on. So to me, it's a big opportunity for that, whether that's introducing new types of wormholes or whether it's just like a quality of life thing. It's just good.
Yeah. So that's a good change. That's a big change. And that's why it's listed first. We also have another big change, which is fitting warnings and other quality of life changes. We'll try to take a look at that before we go. And that is something that I think is going to help players conceptualize how fitting works. And this is where I'll stop and talk about the new player experience, because I was talking to a friend at work and I said, "You've tried EVE Online. Tell me why you stopped." And he stopped within 20 hours. I think it was, he said, was it 20 hours? 10, 20 hours. So basically within the first 3 days, if you have long sessions. And he said that there was inconsistency in the navigation, and that means like the UI. Like he would get instructions that said to do that, hit this button, and then a few minutes later he'd get the same instruction. Sorry, he'd want to do the same thing, but he got an instruction that said you can right click, open the menu, and find it there. So CCP might be thinking, well, we're showing them 2 ways to do the same thing, and here's a third way that you can do the same thing. But what that created to him was inconsistency, and he'd already forgotten how you do that, this other thing. So there was too many things he had to learn. There were too many ways to do those things. And there was just way too much to understand. He said, this is a game I'm going to have to read manuals to understand.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice being able to do the same thing in 3 different ways, right? With the context menus, the radial menus, clicking in space, using the overview, using shortcuts. But I mean, EVE already has a lot of clutter, to be honest. I can see how that's frightening to a new player.
It's here's the thing, and we have a comment from a chat member, Dronberg, who says, another game too hard person. Well, harden the fuck up, basically. And I want to speak to that because
it's not the game's too hard. It's about usability rather than the actual difficulty of the game.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. The idea that you can't be that the game is too hard. First of all, this has nothing to do with the game. It's how much spare time do I have, and that doesn't depend on how smart you are. That depends on where you are in your life. You're a college student and you finished and you're on break or something. You have all the time in the world. You don't have anywhere else to be. But if you're a working person, you only have 3 or 4 hours an evening. So that alone dictates how much time you're going to give a game. And if you're going to have to read manuals about it, and you have so many other options that are similar. At the time that EVE came out in the first 5 or 6 years, there wasn't much that was similar because Sandbox was a niche of a niche. The MMOs were the niche, and the Sandbox version of MMO was a niche of a niche. And then you had a single shard universe, which was very, very rare. So yeah, you need to like consider that it's not about how smart you are or how capable you are. It's about what your actual real life is.
But also when it comes to difficulty, when you talk about the difficulty for new players compared to the difficulty for old players, you talk about two types of difficulty. For the older players, you're talking about mechanical things like what you need to learn, what do the other players do, what are their strategies. But when you talk about new players, the difficulty is just about understanding what to do,
Yes.
how to do things. And like you talked to with Ash, like what's the next hurdle after you get through like the career missions? It's like, well, when you look at fitting ships, that's actually like really quite complicated if you're looking at it through the market. And so one of the good tools they've put in is when you go into the fitting window, you can buy things with the click of a button. So you can avoid a lot of that complexity. It's still there. You're not paring down the game. You're just presenting the game in like basically like paring down some of the stuff so you can still do things without having to delve into that complexity and figure it all out. Because the game's gotten, busier over the years. There's more in the market. There's more ships. There's more things to fit. So it's actually harder now, as Hilmar says, to be a new player than it used to be as well.
It's a lot harder, yeah. And you were right. You're exactly right. He said, I didn't know what to do next. And he said, I didn't even understand the UI. And at that point, you're not even playing EVE Online. You're just, I don't know. You're not capable of enjoying what EVE is even good at the most basic level, which is go out in your spaceship and mine an asteroid and have something that was created out of nothing. You can't even get to that.
Well, it's like they'll never get to see Eve at all. That's the problem. They'll never get over the initial hurdles of the UI and using a ship and fitting a ship. And so, with things like the fitting tool, you're sort of trying to help the players out a bit with that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
With these warning messages.
Yeah.
So
EVE is not for everyone.
It's a step.
Those type of comments, I get why you say them. But I also feel like, no, this guy is probably a perfect candidate for EVE. He'd probably pump a bunch of money into it. He's a collector. He's a bit of a min-maxer. He's an efficiency guy. I think that if he could get past a certain hurdle, that he would really like this game. And I asked him, I said, well, I think what you're supposed to do is kind of like join a corporation and have people help you with this stuff, like sit down and actually take the time to do it. And there's a lot of generous players that's what they do. They sit there and they answer questions they've already answered 10 times, but they're willing to answer it an 11th time to help out another guy. And he said, oh yeah, but I'm not going to join a group because, first I'm the kind of guy that wants to learn, the UI and how to do simple things, and then I'll ask to join a group for help. And that's what Ashtarothi said. People won't join a group if they feel like they're a burden. They don't want to just join a group and ask for things. They feel that's unfair. They want to learn some basics on their own, and then after they kind of feel it out, then they will say, okay, I know there's more advanced stuff here, so but I can join a group without being a burden to them. So now is the time for me to do that.
Plus, you want to see if you actually like the game and think, oh yeah, I'll keep playing this. I mean, that's really the decision you're trying to make first. And if you join the game and it feels unplayable, the answer to that question is no, this isn't the game for me. This is nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. So again, those things all combined create a situation that makes EVE hard to get into. And that's something that CCP is putting a lot of effort to reverse. So this fitting windows is another thing that will help people conceptualize. I don't think this is made for new players necessarily. I think it's, and by new players, let's distinguish. Somebody who's playing this game for 3 months is still a new player. Somebody who's playing the game for a year, to me, is still a rookie, still a new player-ish. They can probably have learned a lot by that time, but they're still not They don't understand a lot of context still. But what
I
we're
mean,
talking
all EVE
about,
players are new players because EVE is complicated, and when it changes, it becomes perennial. So, I learn things about EVE every day.
yeah, I do too. But what we're talking about is the first few hours of your EVE experience. Somehow there are people who have enough time in their life to stick to it, or they're interested enough at the very beginning to stick to it, to stay around. For me, I played EVE once and I stuck with it, and I don't know why, but I did. And I haven't stopped or taken any breaks in all the time that I've been here since around this time, 2008. So for other people, they have to play it, not like it, go away, keep hearing about it, come back, try it again, see if it's a little better, and they go away. And they might take 2 or 3 times. Some people say it's like the third or fourth time where they say, oh, okay, I think I can do this now. And then they stick. But yeah, so anyway, again, this is a new patch notes, a whole new effort on making sure that retention gets as much attention as possible from the development process. I believe they're doing the majority of their work on making sure that problems like this get solved.
Yeah, I mean, ship bumping is in there as well, which was on CC, and now I think it's on main. Yep. So 3-minute timer for ship bumping. So if you get stuck on something, eventually you'll warp.
Yeah. And I think, is there a visual graphic that tells you how close you are to actually warping?
Yeah, there's a little bar that fills up underneath, and they've changed a few of the descriptions as well. So you've got a visual indicator.
Yeah.
It's sort of like your velocity up to 75%, but of course that's just one of these weird abstract things that it's never really indicated in the game unless you pay attention
Yeah.
or you read it on a wiki. But that's got a visual indicator now as well.
I'll turn on the game, see if I can see it. I hear music coming on. Let me turn that down. Well, that is a big deal because a lot of people get stuck on, and a little ship will be going up to an asteroid and they don't know how much distance they need to have to that asteroid. So they'll navigate up to it. They'll get up to the asteroid right next to it. They turn on their laser and hey, they're mining. And then they fill up and then they have to warp back to unload it and they get stuck on the asteroid and they're like, what the heck is happening? I'm not going anywhere,
Yeah.
but I hit warp.
Do you remember when the collision hitboxes way back when they were actually done with spheres? And so if there was like an antenna on something and they put a hitbox around it, the hitbox would be enormous, and you'd hit things that would just look like space. I think they actually fixed on stations quite a few years ago, but
Did they?
it was funny. They made the hitboxes a bit more sensible.
Oh, because I still fear that. There was a time where I think NC Dot had deployed to Syndicate and we're taking moons away from Initiative, and we took them pretty easily. It was nice fighting. Initiative was always good at that. And on our way out, I was one of the last ones, and so I had the Sinos for like 3 out of 4 jumps, but I didn't have one. By the way, that's a problem that I had all those Sinos, right? But my friend, who I had brought into the corpse, like, oh, I can light a Sino for you on this first Astra house, and I think it was an Erebus that I was flying, and I said, oh, that'd be great, appreciate it. And this system was being camped by the Initiative because they knew NC Dot was leaving, and they're going to camp it to catch any stragglers like me. So so he is in an Astra house, and he put the Sino on top of the Astra house. And if you've seen an Astra house, it's kind of flat except in the middle where it has like a big tower. That's different than a Fortizar, and that's different than a Keepstar. On a Keepstar and a Fortizar, you have plenty of space in the middle above it, but not on an Astra house. So he put the Sino there, and I didn't know where he had put it, so I jumped to it, and sure enough, it bounced me out, and I started drifting out. And this was where I had So I was moving out slowly, and I thought, well, I can't land in that Astra house, so I need to approach it because I'm now gliding out of the safety zone. At some point, my tether will break, which makes me immune to damage, and when that breaks, I'm up for grabs. And this place, and I could see there were initiative in the system, so I was like sweating, and I'm drifting and drifting. So I erroneously target the Astra house and say, approach. Do you know why that's a problem? I'll give chat a second to see if they know, because something very unexpected happened at the time. So what? No, the tether does break, but for what reason? Well, I'll tell you. Type it in if you want. But when you approach the Astra house, you don't approach the center of the Astra house. You approach the perimeter. So I literally started flying myself even faster out of the Astra house to the edge of the Astra house. That's right, asteroid. And I was like, what's going on? Why am I going the wrong way? And I kept hitting approach, approach, approach. And then I was almost at the edge. And this is interesting. If you've ever seen this happen, it's a little terrifying, but very interesting. Your tether will start to stretch and then change colors. And I believe it starts to fade. And I was like at that point where it had turned orange and it looked like it was fading.
And then some letters appeared in the tether, and it was just like, you're going to die.
Yeah, I just thought, and it was just me and this guy. And the guy is like, I can tell he's panicked, right? Because he's less experienced than I am. And he says, you're all right. You're all right. Everything's fine. Sure. No problem. You're fine. I was like, that Sino has bumped me out and something's not working. I'm not able to get back. And then I see an initiative ship fly up into my grid, and I thought, oh, here it comes. And then I actually, my mind must have cleared enough to think, oh, I'm being flown out to the edge, because I was looking at the line. I was basically sitting on top of the border that was blinking, and I thought, oh, that makes sense. So then I targeted the Sino, and I started to approach the Sino itself, and then I got the result. So the tether never broke, but I was right on that edge. Now, I brought up that story because I bumped off the tower, even though it certainly wasn't on the tower, because I still think that whatever that map is that actually maps the points is really bad. If they fixed it a few patches or a few years ago, that would be great. Okay.
Fun stories, but we're speaking about updates, Matterall.
Yeah. You know, this is Talking in Stations, right? We should do the Sunday show should be like the news program, and then every day it's like a social Talking in Stations. And Talking in Stations, the whole concept is pilots kind of meeting in a bar. And you can see that in the artwork for this podcast is if you're seeing the three guys sitting at a dark bar, that's basically what Talking in Station is. Guys from different parts of the galaxy sitting in a bar. It's a crossroads of experiences, all kind of exchanging ideas and information. I don't have all the patch notes. The updates only gives you the big ones. So to get the patch notes, we go to patchnotes.com. Sorry, patchnotes.eve.com. No, let's see. I don't think that does it. Nope. How do we get
I
the
linked
patch
it
notes?
in chat.
I don't know if that helps because I want to give that to audio listeners, but yeah. All right. Well, thanks for linking it. We went through these today. We don't know how they have turned out, but the visuals for wormholes have been. In addition to that, they have audio for wormholes.
And some procedural music for inside the wormholes too, which is pretty cool.
What's that?
Basically, it's the idea that you see in lots of games now where the audio ramps up when there's activity like combat. And so procedural audio, it changes based upon what you're doing, and they've put that into Wormhole's music.
Oh, wild. All right, what else we got here? The Sino changes. We know that a Titan already got whacked in Fountain, belonging to Initiative. The Black Ops thing, I think we came to the conclusion that it must be add some versatility and some excitement to Sinos, in that if you see a Sino, you might actually be jumping on a trap. So
Right. It's like I was saying, like before it would have just been, oh, there's a herd of sheep over there, but now you've got that Scottish sheepdog that from a distance it's woolly, but you get up close and it's got teeth.
why does the sheep have bangs?
Well, yeah, they basically eat wolves, and I think that's what they're getting at. You might go to an industrial Sino, but there'll be some recons there waiting for you, and then some Black Ops, and things to get fun.
All right. So fitting warnings. I'm going to try to test that out just now. So I'll try to get that on screen. It looks like it does the CPU's overload, power grid overload, cargo overload. That's a good one. I think you just can't undock if you're overloaded on cargo, which is it's weird to find out that way. So it gives you warnings, which are red. It gives you crucial warnings, which are red, and it gives you normal warnings, which are yellow. And then just information is in white. We'll check that out in just a second. Gameplay changes. Ships that bump while attempting to enter warp will automatically warp if they remain in the pre-warp state for more than 3 minutes. So yesterday Sunday on the Talking Stations show, I was saying that, yeah, you can't. I was saying this: you can't be held out of warp for more than 3 minutes, which is mostly a high sec thing, which is all true. But what I confused was that was part of the interface that establishes a warp vector. And I don't know how those two perform together, if they perform together.
Just think of it like a little bar that represents your velocity getting up to 75%. It will go back and forth when you get bumped. I'm not quite sure how it indicates the 3 minutes, maybe it changes color or something. If it doesn't, they probably iterate on it and make it a bit nicer. Maybe like a timer that counts down from 3 minutes. I'm not quite sure how they actually indicate the 3 minutes. I'll have to test.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. If the what's it called here? The establishing warp vector is a part of that timer. And it normally goes really fast, but if you're bumped or stuck on something, it's going to go really slow. That might be. I want to see how those two things work together. So I conflated them on Sunday, and I was corrected about that. So that was pretty good.
Yep. You've actually got that construction contract around the new Jitta in the patch notes, so I'm not quite sure when that will start happening, or if it's already changed the model in Jitta.
I can check
So that's
that.
something to look forward to. Yep.
I'll undock in a second. Yeah, I thought they might take it in layers, showing it being built up.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. We've got the new Triglavian implants as well, which are pretty cool, and they're in the DLP store.
Yeah. Let's okay, let me bring up the client real quick. We only have a few minutes left, but we'll go ahead and do this anyway. Where are you? Oh, it's up. Okay. Oops, I have to make some adjustments here. Sorry, audio audience, you have to put up with all this stuff. All right. Let me turn this off. So the first thing I want to do is look at this window and see if we can make an alert go off. See, do I have anything in it? No. Okay. This is the wrong character to use. It's mostly got industrial things. Let's see what this does. What? That was weird. It took drones. I don't think it's supposed to do that. Can't load drones in an industrial. Yeah, they're registering right here. Well, that's odd.
Just another NC DOS player trying to
Yes.
find the undock button
Yeah,
Matterall.
where's this undog button? All right, so I got my first alert, which is kind of cool. Put another one on there. Huh. Alert went on there, okay. Trying to generate different types of alerts. This character just doesn't have any, I don't really use it for that sort of thing. This is great, look at that. Let me close. This is not so great because the window pops up in an area where it's hard to see. If you have your fitting window completely open. So let's close that. And there's no easy way to close that. These are the kinds of things they got to think about. I do have an alert, and if I hover over it, you can see that it says fitting advisory. So that's really cool. That module is not providing a bonus. This is fantastic. Like, this kind of thing is just so much more helpful in meaningful ways, which I think is great. All right. And the other thing I want to do is undock. So here I am, NC guy, found the undock button. Ha, ha, ha. Let's hope I don't get destroyed. Well, I'll level with you guys. I have one screen that I do all the streaming on, and these windows have to be a certain size because, I don't know, because that's just the way it's set up. And so I have to like constantly be going up and down on windows and stuff. So here's Jitta. Let's have a look at its new beauty. I think it looks the same. See if we can hear sounds. Well, I don't see the parts that are new.
I guess it's something to look forward to then.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go hunt down these new conduits that have been on CC that are supposedly going to be popping up in LoSec. I'm pretty excited about those. With roaming Triglavians, Resnoborgs.
I'm going to switch over to quality settings and see if there's a difference there. Oh my god, I've blue screened.
What kind of potato are you playing on, Metal?
No, I was kidding. That was an adjustment. I'm playing on Wine because I play on Macintosh.
Oh, you're emulating.
I'm emulating Eve. See, I'm that meta level above where I'm actually emulating playing a game, not actually doing it. Yeah, I don't see the Jitta progress here, so maybe it is not here yet.
Not started yet.
Yeah, I don't think it started. I don't even see anything that would indicate it's starting, and I don't hear any construction sounds.
Yeah, I'm expecting there's going to be like a in-game world
Docking
news
permission
post,
requested.
There
Docking
was.
or even an
request
event.
accepted.
Yeah, that starts off the construction.
Yeah.
Well, to do the tinfoil, right? Aren't we going to get an NPC burn Jitta?
Let me turn down the sound.
Don't you think there's going to be some sort of event based around that whole wormhole thing?
I just have no idea what they're gonna do.
That was kind of what Ash and Lux was speculating on, whether or not some sort of weird event actually starts happening around Jitta that then becomes the reason that they do the expansion.
Well,
I mean, that was partly to wind up Caleb because he's a
Yeah.
market trader. So they saw this idea that the most chaotic and best thing you could do for the game is blow up Jitta just to get a rise out of.
But I'm not in Jitta. You know this. I am not there. I'm offshoring. I'm on the Scilly Isles.
it's important not to take what Ashtarothi says as something that's going to happen. It's very important to understand that he's projecting a lot of desire into the stuff that he talks about. It doesn't mean he's wrong, but he has an expansive mind that thinks like maybe a developer with an unlimited budget could do. If expectations go up because Ashtarothi is saying that something like that is going to happen, that is a bad thing. We want to keep expectations realistic.
Well, it's better than nothing, right? And we're not getting any roadmaps. We're not getting any future vision keynotes. So it's nice that we at least have some tinfoil hatters that can dream for us.
Well, it's nice for them. It's not nice for the audience that gets confused about what's in the game and what's not. That's the part I have trouble with.
Ventures can no longer go into faction warfare complexes, so that's a change that people have wanted for a while, and that's in there now.
Right.
So what new exploit the creative players will think of, we'll just have to see.
Well, that's turning off. You want to take this whole thing that we're looking at, chaos, and instead of seeing it as punitive, because I was just talking to people on Reddit, and they were saying, and I don't normally talk there. It's very rare that I do, but I responded to a couple things trying to give some insight into a different way of looking at things. And one guy said, like, it seems like CCP is trying to destroy the game, or they want us to go if they don't like us. They're trying to deliberately get the players to leave. And I just thought, I think you're in a bubble. I didn't say that, but that's what I thought. And it's not that they're trying to drive people out of the game. I forgot my point. This happens a lot when I'm reading and thinking at the same time.
Here's one on the patch notes that probably needs a bit of clarification. It says it added a 50% bonus for Sinos for Black Ops battleships. That should probably say added a 50% reduction bonus, because it doesn't mean that your Black Ops is going to be stuck there for longer. It means it will be able to light it and get away more quickly, I believe. Does that sound right, McLeod? Because we were messing around with it yesterday.
Sorry, I kind of came in halfway through.
You're way quiet, McLeod.
I'll
turn you up. Okay.
Sorry, I came in halfway through, I think. Was the conversation about Black Ops being hang on. Okay.
Yeah, they popped a 50% bonus for lighting sinos on the Black Ops battleship, but it just says 50% bonus, and that should say that it's a bonus to the time going the other way, should if you actually look at the hull.
If it's a 50% bonus in terms of like reduction time for the cycle time for the Sino.
Yeah, I mean, but it just says 50% bonus to the duration, but it really means it's reduced by 50%, and it's not 50% longer.
Yeah, it's a reduction. So instead of 10 minutes, it's 5 minutes.
Can you imagine?
If you're gonna survive 5 minutes in a synode in a Black Ops, like, you know, you're gonna survive 10 minutes. Like, I mean, you know, that's the reality of it. If you're gonna survive 5 minutes with a Sino up in a Black Ops, you're probably gonna survive 10 minutes with a Sino up in a Black Ops. It's just, you know.
There is one thing that we didn't test that someone brought up in chat that would be worth testing. They were saying, well, can a Rorqual's Panic work on an industrial ship lighting a Sino?
It does, yes. I tested
it.
It does.
That's pretty funny.
Well,
it does.
Theoretically, it does. I haven't seen it.
The issue is you obviously have to be within range, and obviously, like, yeah, if you're warping from a celestial to a Rorqual that's, you know, obviously in trouble, chances are there are bubbles everywhere, and you won't get near to it, or you might just about get near to it to catch the panic, but you know, it's unlikely. And even so, you're not going to last anywhere. You're not going to last long at all on the grid to be able to get anywhere near to it to burn to it. So,
oh, this is interesting. Someone says the patch notes are in English, no other language, and that's interesting. You know, these are the kinds of things that we don't really think about. Is the localization? I think we talk about community getting hit, but localization got demolished a few months ago when the community team was kind of let go. So I'm going to do something by taking that. And
I've never seen patch notes for any game in local languages.
No, but the point remains that localization got smashed.
True, it's just I've never seen any game developer do it right on scale.
I mean, I was talking to you about this the other day, Matt, when I told you that you can open up translations on YouTube as like a beta feature.
Yeah, that's transcript, not translation. But you can go to Google Translate.
It's actually translations as well.
Is it? Wow, that's advanced.
Yeah,
that's really advanced. But I guess they use the same technology since Google does both YouTube and this. And you can see that it does translate. So yeah, it doesn't have other languages. Other games don't do it either. And you can probably take this and translate it through Google Translate and get close to what it is. At that point, yeah, it is in English. I don't think they have the resources right now the language resources to translate stuff.
You get quite far with Google Translate, right? Quite a lot of corporate guys actually just use Google Translate for most translation.
Well, I was actually thinking it's the sort of thing the community would pick up. Yeah. So if you had a corporation where you all spoke your native language and some of you could read it, you could translate it for your corp mates, and you would.
That's what immigrants do. I mean, immigrants that can't speak the language will have their kids translate for them when they get an official document. You'll see a lot of 10-year-olds reading out loud to their parents because their parents don't know the language.
I'm fairly certain there is also, like, you know, translation services out there that you can get. Like, and to be fair, being able to half translate something via Google Translate and then just have someone who's like, you know, fluent in both languages, just, you know, go through it, make sure that it's, you know, it's not just jumbled craziness. Like, it's probably pretty easy and fairly cheap.
There are workarounds, but those are workarounds. I think CCP should put more effort into localization because this is a global game. And we have to respect their players that speak other languages natively. They're all at a disadvantage when they're trying to understand stuff in a language that's not their first language. We still have a lot of players from all around the world, but if we had really good localization, we might actually capture a bit more there. I don't know.
Why don't they just expand the volunteer group and then incentivize it with things like game time? I don't understand why they don't do that.
Yeah,
it would be such a nice incentive and easy, right? Do a Google Translate and then get someone that's native language to actually just look it over, fix it a little bit, and then have just one proofreader on it, and that's it done.
When you pop into rookie help, if you ask a question, you'll quickly be directed to the Russian help or the Spanish help or the whatever language that you've spoken. So it sort of falls on the community quite a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, it's something that you would crowdsource at the very least, but I think also that you might actually support that because it makes the game. I think it has a cachet that this game you're playing against really incredibly smart people from all over the world. That's part of the cachet of playing EVE Online. You're not competing against West Coast US server. You're competing against Germany. You're competing against Russia. You're competing against Australia. I think California could beat Australia, by the way.
You can gamify stuff like this, right? You can take it out of the client, make it a similar thing to when it comes to things like precision and all that stuff to the project discovery, right? And it's something that would be worth adding some value to the game and something that you can benefit from.
Yep. So anyway, translation would be a nice thing, but they got other things to work on right now. If they announced a lot of localization support, I think the players that are upset right now would say ho hum. All right, we checked out the fittings warnings. That was pretty cool. I'll play more with that more tomorrow. Last things, gameplay, ship bumping. We went over that. The FOF missiles, friend or foe. I forget what I called them on the show, but I named them wrong. Friend or
fire and forget, I think.
Friend friend and forget. Friend or forget. That is a combination of two things. Fire and forget is the nickname, and friend or foe is the actual name. Friend or foe missiles. And they call them fire and forget because they don't need to be targeted. You don't need to target anyone to use them. You need to basically release them, and they find the target themselves. And that's a huge advantage if you're doing AFK ratting, which is what they were being used for, because you would essentially just fire your missiles and not have to waste your time targeting and retargeting anyone. It works like drones in that way. But and that's okay because these things have limitations, and you would probably get killed by rats before the missiles went to work. And so here's where the problem was. People would fire those things 300 kilometers away. So the NPCs, the rats, would have no reaction to these missiles that are coming into them. So they sit there and just get blown up. And that is not okay. So CCP nerfed that. So yes, wormholers were nerfed this pass. And that, it turns out, is a pretty significant moneymaker for them. So they're going to get nerfed again, I think. Or they did with the blue loot, because now the blue loot has a 3.5% tax in addition to what was there before. So their blue loot is worth less now to them. And I think there's something else coming with wormholes. I forget what it was. Maybe it wasn't announced, or it's something that they're talking about that hasn't been said. But I thought they were going to get nerfed a different way as well.
Well, CCP were talking about potentially like screwing around with like their ability to roll holes like that. But they were talking about that as like a maybe sort of potential thing, but no actual like concrete stuff.
Yeah, I thought there was something else, but I don't remember what it was. In addition to that, that's a big one. That would be a big one. But I thought there was another thing. Anyway, more graphics here. We made improvements to post-processing system, improving its performance and allowing more effects and scenes to use it to full advantage. So maybe we'll see some interesting stuff coming up there. They basically increase the technology behind the graphics, some of the graphics. And then he talks about, this patch notes talks about improving the visuals for wormholes and suns. Okay, and here's a remark. CEP.
Apparently, our predictions around the new conduits were incorrect. So that's interesting, Matt.
What were the predictions?
Well, I'd assumed that they were telegraphing Rasnaborgs in the system, but they're not really doing that at all.
What are they doing?
They're basically like a little site from what Nero's just said. We'll have to go check them out.
Hold on, is Miro in here? No. Oh, Ashtarothi is, though. How is that happening? Ashtarothi?
Yeah.
Hi.
Sorry, dude. You were... I'll get that fixed. You were
Yeah, I
muted.
don't know. I'm not sure why.
Anything in the patch notes surprise you?
So it's those new conduits that was just being referred to. So there's now emergent conduits that are able to be seen as on the probe menu, just as another like site, like any other combat anomaly or something like that. They are allegedly able to be done fairly easily with a T3 cruiser or battleship, solo, and they reward roughly 4.5 million ISK and 300 LP per site.
Fairly
Wow.
significant.
Has anything surprised you in the patch notes, Ash?
Well, I mean, the fact that these things haven't been seen in low sec is kind of surprising. I haven't gotten a chance to go see Jitta yet to see how built up it is.
Jitta? It's not.
Have they not replaced the model?
No. I think this is just an announcement that they're going to.
Yeah, so they announced the contract, which was the world news, but I guess we're going to get something separate for the actual start of construction.
Well, that's interesting because that means that they've put all of the files to perform this sequence in already. So now they could just play it whenever they want.
Which is why I said I think you might be right that some weird event will go before the actual build-up.
Do you think they'll have a celebration with fireworks and everything and then start to build the station kind of thing? Groundbreaking type of thing?
Only if you think an attack on Jitta is a celebration and fireworks.
I mean, an explosion is a type of firework.
I think CCP...
I'm telling you, it's NPC burn Jitta.
CCP trying to do anything that is public right now would get absolutely derailed by players who are living in nullsec, I think. So I don't know if you'll see any kind of ceremony that's supposed to go a certain way. I think things will just start to turn on. Oh, it's 9/11. It is past our time. There was some stuff I wanted to discuss, but early on I was fumbling around. But I do want to go back to Blackout and check in with where people are. I've noticed some interesting things lately. And I'll just tease with these. I won't actually go into them. Don't have much time. But I've noticed that the rhetoric is totally changing on the Imperium side. And I think I know why. But it's just tinfoiling, or it's an analysis of things that I'm hearing. One is they're losing people. And I think they're losing people fast. Two is overall, there are some people that are leaving the game. I'm sure that's true, but that has to be true because there's so many people complaining. Some of them actually have to do what they say they're going to do and close accounts and leave. But maybe that takes a while. Maybe that takes months. But I think a lot of people are actually joining corporations. When I talk to people, some people in the north, they're actually seeing people coming, not people going. Ashtarothi, you see people coming. And they like the Imperium, but they're coming to HiSec, right?
Well, I've noted it before. We actually are not, of all of the quote-unquote refugees that we're getting, which, yes, recruitment is very good right now, but very few of them seem to be ex-goons. I've noted that before. I think that they actually do a pretty good job of capturing their newer players better than some other organizations. I do see a lot of people from Test, Brave, and stuff like that are coming in. Although it's also people that are, I see a lot of people that are coming back after being away from the game for a few years. Yeah. So there's that too.
Yeah, I heard Freeze is back from PL. At least I heard that Grath said that he was back and flying around. They may not stay, so don't get your hopes up. But they're coming back to try it because this was something they wanted to see a long time ago.
I just want to ask Ash's thoughts on the date tomorrow if they actually attack Jitta.
That would be an extraordinarily poor idea.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Tomorrow is September 11th.
Yeah. Caleb in his history references.
Why would you attack Jitta on 9/11?
I'm just saying it would be extremely poor taste. If you're going to ask me, I'm just going to answer your question.
Just CCP things. Just CCP things.
All right. Hey, I didn't see the time to warp thing at all.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it also was super misunderstood. I posted it on Reddit, and everybody thought that it had something to do with the 3-minute bump changes, and it has nothing to do with the 3-minute bump changes.
Oh, this news just in. Donald Trump fired John Bolton. Is that right?
Wait, what?
I'll check it.
No, you cut out in the middle of saying it.
Oh, Trump fired John Bolton, which is...
Oof.
Yeah, Trump says he fired John Bolton, and security advisor. Wow. Huh. I won't get into politics, I promise, but these guys are not my guys. I'll just say that. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there. I tried to warp, and I didn't see anything saying it takes a certain amount of time before you initiate warp. I'll try it again. Ooh, undocking confirmed. I don't know if that's new or not. I don't remember seeing that.
No, that's not new.
Yeah,
That's fine.
that's normal.
NC dogplay undocks the
Yeah, I
best
know. I
over
just
years.
totally played myself. I just totally fell in.
You're playing to the stereotype, dude.
Wow.
I know. And you know what? I have not seen that in a long time. So, I think but I will admit, I usually don't look at that sort of thing and play in Jitta anyway. So it's not like it's a big deal for.
It is true that, like, whenever a patch note happens, people quote unquote notice new things that are actually old things that they just hadn't paid attention to yet because there's just so many things.
Yeah, that's not the first time that's happened. Oh, there it
You
is.
guys checked out the
Establishing warp vector. There it is. And it's almost there. And look at that go. That really works. Wait, why aren't I warping? There it goes. That's pretty cool.
I mean, now we've got that, and we've got the pointer to point at the undog button. I mean, we'll have all you guys out in space soon.
At some
And
point.
we got another expansion or two, and we might actually get NC to be out there.
NC is out there right now on deployment. I think they're pounding on somebody named Sort Dragon. I don't know. But I think he's public enemy number 1 in NC dot right now. We shall see. Of course, I don't speak at all officially. I'm just talking about sentiment inside, at least the people that I talk to in NC.
So have you guys seen the new ship designations and such?
Ship designations? What's that?
So, like, if you go look at the Macarial now, it says that it can either be armor or shields.
Oh.
So all of the
haven't seen that.
all of the ships that are traditionally can be tanked either way now say armor or shields.
That's
And
good.
as you're fitting your ship, if you fit the wrong tank or mixed weapons or any of those kinds of things, it designates or it tells you those things.
Yeah.
Did not.
I was a bit
know
worried that they'd put the warnings on the incorrect hulls, which you do actually mix things on. But they'd at least reworded it to be like most of the time.
Yeah, no, there's like 3 or 4 different levels of errors, right? So there's like the literally like this is a problem. Red flag, power grid CPU is over. This fit is not going to work, and all the way down to white. Hey, normally this isn't done, but you do you, man.
You do you. That's such a millennial thing.
I'm on the upper bound of millennial. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, you're just hip that way. You know why that is, right? I work in marketing. This is why they say that, is because they're terrified of judgment. And in order not to be judged, they do not judge. So it's all a symptom of just how connected people are online with their social awareness.
Or maybe they're just not as big of a bunch of assholes as we are.
Maybe that could be true.
Or helicopter parents.
Yeah.
Or, whatever the equivalent was back in the 80s and 90s.
Soccer moms? No.
I don't even know.
But
we've learned that having strong sentiments to anything just basically invites trolls. That's basically what we've learned as millennials, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a yellow warning that's saying that I'm mixing hybrid and projectile weapons, and I have a yellow warning that's saying that I'm mixing small and large weapons.
Oh, really? Because CC Fozzie was saying that that is very plausible. You should not be afraid to load short-range guns with long-range guns or mixed types.
Well, this is a small weapon and a large weapon.
Oh, okay.
Well,
That
I don't
might
know.
be different.
Either
I
way,
don't know. And
it
that's
says,
good. When I first started playing, I thought I want to be prepared for long range and short range, and I want to be prepared for big ships and small ships.
One of each
Oh, I
gun.
don't feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is usually suboptimal to mix turret sizes, it says.
See,
Okay,
I
so
like that they hedge.
Because
I
then
like
at least
that they hedged
know.
it
Yeah.
with a because
It's also
at
usually
the start it was
suboptimal
just
to
like
mix
this is
turret
wrong.
groups. Wait, there's like little boxes around things too. Why are they boxes now instead of
Passive and active modules.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right.
Although it kind of communicates the wrong thing. It makes me think that they can be overheated, and I don't think you can overheat the tractor beam. Oh well. That's just me being nitpicky.
Listen, I aligned to this station. I thought I warped to it. I asked it to dock, and nothing happened. Let's try that again. Dock.
Going back to your old habits already.
Yeah. Look, I did not see the warp. See, it didn't pop up that time.
It doesn't happen when you align, which makes me sad.
Well, I didn't align. At least I don't think I did. I might have accidentally.
What
aligned.
do you mean the calculating warp
Yeah,
vector kind of like pop-up thing?
Yeah.
Ah, all right.
I've only seen it 1 out of 3 warps, so I'll have to figure out when it works and when it doesn't work. And that alone is confusing, right?
There's an emergent conduit next door to my home system.
Yeah.
Time to go test it.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Are you going to stream in just a few minutes?
Not in a few minutes. So you're going to have to raid somebody else. You want me to help you find somebody?
Yeah. Thanks. It does say warp vector. All right. Well, I'll keep looking at this. It's brand new today. Made some changes. We went over the patch notes. Go back to those patch notes, and then we'll sign off.
I mean, it's either Bjorn or Urschlag.
Well, Bjorn, I guess people would want to watch him.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we're going to need to wait some time to see what the industrial Sino situation is like for Black Ops and see if that causes some calamity, some comedy. And we'll have to see how this other stuff goes. So your med clone location is now called Home Station. That's a little simpler. I was talking to a friend, Ashtarothi, who was saying, yeah, I don't want to join a group until I'm useful to them. And I don't understand where I am or what I'm supposed to do. And the tutorial missions, they kind of do something, but then they stop. And then you don't know what else to do next. And he was saying like he really wanted somebody to give him a purpose of something to do. And he wanted to start building his wealth, which is something that's really important to him. But he only lasted like 10, 15 hours in EVE Online before he realized I'll have to read manuals to understand this game.
I mean, it's true. That's the two things that I find to be the biggest kind of challenges once the new player gets past the, oh my God, what is happening phase, which is one, what do I do? I need somebody to give me some sort of direction. I need some sort of bigger goal for me to be part of. And I don't need a group to tell me that I can do whatever I want. I need a group to tell me that what they need me to do so that way I can feel useful. And two, I need to feel like I'm not, and which is related to number one, I need to feel like I'm not a burden. And therefore, if I'm not confident in my own ability to do stuff, I'm going to try to increase my own capability before I try to do something for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And that's what prevents people from, they'll give up before they join a corp, because they don't join a corp to learn what to do. They join a corp because they want to then apply what they know. They don't want to be seen as the dumb person, right? So why would you join a group just to be the boat anchor, just to be the hindrance? That's why a lot of places like EVE University becomes very popular, because it's like, oh, I can join this place to learn, as opposed to, just be part of the group. Yeah. It's a very interesting, subtle, psychological game being played there.
Yeah, on the topic of new players, there's some things in today for them as well. They've updated the UI in the agency for the tutorial mission, so it's like looks a lot cleaner than I remember it being. And you know that mission that makes you explode? They've actually put some things in there so the new players that don't actually read that text, there's an acceleration gate that will stop them going in there with different types of ships. And
So they don't blow up in something
stuff.
nice.
Yeah,
right. It now gives you a particular ship, and then if you try to go with like one of the ships that they've already given you before that point, it's like, sorry, try again.
Yeah.
And it also provides you with a ship to go in there to explode in.
Okay, so Elimination, nice name. Doesn't Brave Newbies, Karma Fleet, and Pandemic Horde fill that niche? Anyone want to speak to that? They're talking about the new player niche, somebody that wants to come in and learn.
I would say, first of all, I don't think that it's a thing to be filled.
Or fleet skills, actually. It looks like it's specific to fleet skills.
But again, so yes, Brave Newbies, Karma Fleet, these guys have done a good job serving a function where the UI and the game itself has failed. But that's the problem. Like right now, what we're seeing is what happens when we rely on these institutions only to retain and to teach and to get these people into the game, which
There's
means
a gap between getting into the corporations, which they have to address.
right, which means anybody who doesn't go into that path, anybody who doesn't hit these magical stars lined up kind of situations, end up not being set up for success. And the problem is that actually doesn't have anything to do with the player. That has everything to do with just probability, circumstances, and a bunch of other things that are outside of the player's control.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can make a game that actually engages the player, teaches them how to play it, and actually gets them interested in the game to play it long enough, then as they're getting, by the time they get to like level 4 missions or level 3 abyss or whatever it is that they end up doing as a player, then when they're like, oh, what's my next step? That's when they usually end up looking into things like Karma Fleet and Brave Newbies and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so Ron is joking around when he says, you either join nullsec or you're wrong. And I think that's the view from Test, at least from Sapporo Jones. Not Billy necessarily, but other people think like you don't really play this game until you get out to nullsec and are part of a big group, and then you really feel what it's all about. And that might be true on day 5, but not on day 1, which is really what we're concerned with. And not even day 5. I needed months before I was like okay.
30.
Yeah. Yeah, I needed months.
If Faction Warfare is day 28, then nullsec is definitely past day 30.
Yeah.
I think what you'll find if they improve some of the high sec type rails for the new players and they improve faction warfare is some of the nullsec groups might actually start having feeder corporations in like faction warfare.
That's actually what they should do, right? That's the next natural stage for nullsec entities to have a permanent high-sec presence. It's also tied into the whole thing of being interested in structures, rollout, and markets in high-sec. So it's just logical to have their feeder corp and their beginner corp in high-sec only and permanently create some content up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there should be a much better funnel to stuff that is in the game that doesn't really enter into the quote unquote player politics. For people who want to enjoy this game on their own at first, before they choose what team they're on, it's very important to give them a funnel that they can go to where they feel the progress and get trained into some of the depth that EVE has before they have to make a decision on what side of what they're on.
I'm telling you, man, these groups that will support them to explore the different parts of the game to see what they like in the game.
Mm-hmm. That's what he said. My friend said, I wanted the game to ask me what I want to do.
So I'm telling you, man, just rebrand agency as Aura.
Yeah, totally.
And restructure it as like your go-to. Because right now, that's the thing. Like that a lot of that information is there. We just need to be able to. We need to teach like the behavior, and they do it in the tutorial a little bit. But this behavior of yes, this tool agency or whatever is the thing that gives you the information you want, and
Mhm.
this is how you process the information that it has. Like if you can teach just that, I think that we could go a long ways.
Yeah.
Because the goal is not to teach everything.
Mhm.
The goal is to get the person in the correct context so that way they can start going through the moments of discovery for themselves, right?
I
A
don't
good
know.
example is like warp to zero, right? Like let's say for a second, the whole autopilot thing. What if the tutorial taught autopilot only, right?
Oh.
Never mentioned the fact that you can work. Hold on, let me finish my thought before you start attacking it. Let's say that it's, we teach autopilot, no warp to zero. We teach warp to zero to sites, right? Warp to zero to sites, autopilot for jumping. We don't say that exactly, but like whenever we tell them to go to the next system, we tell them to hit autopilot and they do it. Now the player's going to watch them burn 12 kilometers. And if you introduce the concept that they can warp at zero most of the time, or to other things, that player will often put those two together,
Mhm.
and now they feel clever that they're able to warp faster than even the thing tells them to.
Yeah.
Now they
Reward.
figured out to warp to zero to start
Yeah.
dates, and if they don't, then a player teaches them, and then they're like, oh,
Yeah.
of course.
Reward system
Or,
kicks in. Yeah.
or you could just be like, why am I waiting 3 minutes to get to the gate and log out and never log back in again? But that was what I was going to say. It was
Not
one
on
of the
autopilot.
players in here had,
You have a goal, right? You hit autopilot. You're going to wait those minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
first of all, you're in a
one
frigate.
of the
It's not that long, and second of all, a lot of times those newer players are like that moment of break
Yeah.
is probably actually very valuable to the new player, especially since like the game actually attracts people by its prettiness. So a little bit of autopilot as you're moving towards the gate and kind of
Yeah.
processing what's going on. It's the first time you're seeing ships that aren't enemies. It's the first
Yeah.
time you're seeing, you know what I
You're
mean?
seeing
Like
people out
it's
there.
actually a good thing to take your time to make that moment happen. But either way, I digress.
there was an idea in here that you could actually take the shuttles, which aren't really used for anything, and make it so their autopilot actually warps you at zero. I really liked that idea. It would make shuttles great again.
Well, that's a convenience thing for expert players. We're talking about new players.
Yeah,
Okay.
true.
Anyway, there was one other thing that Lux brought up that I really liked. He named, we were talking and he named the term idle game, which I really never knew that there was a term for it, but that is a big part of EVE Online. What is an idle game, Lux?
You should ask Ash. He'll probably give you a better explanation of what an idle game
Ash?
is.
Yeah, an idle game is like Cookie Clicker is the most famous one. So it's the idea behind it is it's a game that unlocks over time and like you progress, but basically your goal is to start making resources within the game without doing anything, like or over time. So like either in Idle Champions you have your heroes that go through it, and at a certain point you set it up, you buy your stuff, but then you don't get to actually interact with it very much. It just kind of plays through and does its thing. And then over time, you get more and more things. And usually the thing about idle games is that it compounds exponentially. So like it's about synergizing multiple things together to make these crazy bonuses that make it so you make like just tons and tons of resources above and beyond what you would have been able to build before.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a factory or if it's your unit or if it's cookies, whatever it is. And so idle games is pretty much about that. It's about watching the numbers go up faster and faster and faster.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that in EVE Online.
Yeah. I guess you could argue that PI is somewhat similar to that.
Yeah, except a better version of the incremental game because it actually has a time slider that you can change for how idle you want it to be, you could say.
I would say that the problem there is that none of Eve's idle games, quote unquote, offer the same level of like unending, like I have no idea what's going to happen next. I don't know what I'm going to unlock next. I don't know, like
yeah.
You get to a certain point, you're like, now there's a difference between an idle game and a game that can be played idly, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I want to play some of those idle games.
I've got a couple of good game design videos about it that I can show you.
All right, well, check that out. I want to get more involved in that. Well, here's the thing: idle game. I thought there's elements of it in EVE Online, which is a reason that I talked to Caleb about this at one point. I want to do slow TV, but for EVE. And the closest thing I've seen to it is Diopa, right? He doesn't really talk. He just shows you the beauty of the game, and he's out there doing his stuff. And, he's good at it, whatever. He's been streaming a long time. He does that with video games. I love that style. I could actually watch that.
So you could stream one of NC's stations and people could watch to see if anyone undogs, for instance.
Yeah, it's like looking at a cow in a pasture for 6 hours.
One of the big keys
nothing
about an
changes.
idle game. Sorry, I'm thinking about this more because I'm seeing comments too. So the key behind an idle game is usually there's a menial task, i.e. clicking or something like that, that ends up being like the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And the point of the idle game is that eventually you take that menial task and you do it automatically. And then you do it automatically way better than you could have possibly have done it before. Like now it clicks itself. And now there's a dude that clicks it 100 times a second. And now all of your clicks are worth 10 times as much. And now, you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing it is.
Sounds a bit like mining, doesn't it, Ash?
I
Well,
mean, okay.
the point is, the point is, we were at a bad state when the idle game mixed with, I think, massive income generation through capitals. Right? That's a lethal combination for a game, because now you have the top end of the game running away with the value. And there was a lot of people. The more people got involved in that sort of thing, the more distorted it became. So it's kind of like like a bubble of some sort that needed to be burst. And that's why Chaos said, nope, no more idle game stuff with generating tons and tons of ISK. No more botting to make your fortunes. We're going to diminish opportunities with AFK playing to do that. Now, not industrial side. I'm talking about going out there and harvesting sites. It's just harvesting. You can still build stuff and sell that off, but you're working against other players. That's a form of PvP where you're working against price differentials and margins and all that sort of thing. You're in competition, and it forces you to spread out, which causes you to have risk. And there's a lot of things involved in building and selling, as opposed to going out there and setting up a situation where your ship automatically performs to eradicate NPCs, and then you get paid bounties out of nowhere. That feels like it's getting close to the idle game mentality of sitting there and relaxing. But that was a thing, you'd sit there and you talk with your friends and you relax and maybe you watch a movie, and it was a way of relaxing while you played EVE, because you knew you were progressing in major ways while this was happening. And I think that's a hard thing to let go. But I think it was necessary. What do you guys think, real quick?
I think I agree. I think that over time, the goal, you want to make the people feel like they're getting more powerful, they're getting more effective, and eventually, they are given just too many tools to solve too many problems, and you hit this threshold of safety, and then those threat balancing systems that you have, like, oh look, rogue walls are really expensive, therefore it would suck to lose them. If you, oh my god, that's scary.
What you're saying, the one thing that balanced it was that it was expensive to lose, but if it wasn't expensive to lose, then there would be no reason not to use it. And
Sorry,
so you
try
take.
not to die.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're being attacked? Okay.
I was trying to, I'm trying to run one of the emergent conduits, and I'm soloing it in a Nurgle. First two waves was fine. Third wave was like 15 things. I'm like, okay, I'm out.
I've just been trying one in an Orca, and that last wave is just scary.
Yeah, I popped my DCU for the second wave. I'm like, I got this. And it's
all
like
right,
Zorius Vedmak, and
nobody listening is caring about that right now. I'll just make that call.
These are the new sites.
I know. Oh, are they new sites? Well, explain what the new site is.
I'm experimenting with the new sites. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh, I didn't know they were the new sites. But tell us about the new site.
So the emerging conduit shows up anywhere in HiSec. I don't know if it's in LowSec yet. There appears to be 3 waves. The first wave is only like 3 or 4 Rasnaborg. The second wave is only like 3 or 4 Rasnaborg. The third wave looks like about 15 Rasnaborgs, including Azoria's Vedmak. So I assume that that's the final wave. And then, like I said, clearing it gives you about 4.5 million ISK and 300 LP. So I'm sure like a T3 cruiser can come back and do this thing.
Just to be clear, Ash, that figure I've heard came from somebody dueling it with someone else, so it may be more.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Hey, we'll check in tomorrow and see how it went. Well, this is Patch Day. It's everything's new. We're out there testing things. We tested a few things online here. I learned there's an undock initiated button or something, which was amazing. And I want to thank my friends here for joining me. We're going to go ahead and wrap up after an hour and a half. I know everybody shows up at the end, but that's okay. This is also something that you can catch on VOD, video on demand, or YouTube. Or actually listen to the podcast, subscribe to Talking in Stations if you haven't already on your podcast software, or subscribe to Today in EVE Online, which is this show. I want to say thanks everyone for joining me. Any last thoughts before we go?
I mean, like I said, it's like a mini update more than a patch. It's interesting.
I wanted to ask you about that. Do you think it's a big deal then?
Yeah,
this September.
Yeah, because it's. I think so. I think it's leading us into something big, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd agree with Lux there.
I think that G Fleet this weekend is going to be very interesting, hopefully.
Oh, G Fleet this weekend. It was in the patch notes. Let's keep our ears open. We will see you tomorrow on Today in EVE.